This is Adam Watson, and you're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. Tonight, as my special guest, I have on Zachary Marois to talk about his Kickstarter, Voyage the Call, which is currently active. How's it going tonight, Zachary?
It's doing all right. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on. So as it sits right now, it looks like you're currently at $1,573 of a $5,000 goal, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and you have currently had it on at this point for, is this the 11th day?
I believe I believe so. I have 19 days to go on this one.
Yep, 19 days as of the recording of this. It'll probably be around 16 to 17 when this gets posted. And I will be including a link to the project in the show notes. So anybody that wants to check it out, just check out the show notes and you'll have a direct link right to it. So
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit about the comic.
So the comic is basically a horror sci-fi tale of this character, Sonderon, who's an intergalactic space explorer traveler. He's caught up in this, it's a in-between story amongst his other adventures. And he's caught up in between this weird situation where he's getting a bunch of constant nightmares and he can't sleep. It's driving him to a point of madness. Nearing the end of that, he just kind of succumbs to that and he just follows where his nightmares are leading him to. And where it leads him is just like on this weird run of space cults, Lovecraft type monsters, and just a graveyard of like dead bodies and whatnot, just all over the place, and he just doesn't know what to do with that. And there's this one artifact that's in this story that is the pivot moment where you find the answers to the whole story.
Okay. And this is not the first story you've told with this character, correct?
No. When I was in the Joe Kubert School, when I was working on a bunch of assignments, and one of the assignments it was the start of my second year at the school, and one of the earliest assignments we got was a model sheet of whatever we wanted. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm already been working on this character anyway and just perfecting him. I might as well just throw him on this model sheet, and I did. And I've been always meaning to tell my first comic book with this character. I just didn't know how to do it. And then it was October, and I got this idea just spawned in my head. All my other classmates also had characters and didn't know what to do with them. I always knew what to do with mine, just didn't know where to start. So I just had this bright idea of starting an anthology comic featuring my character, and I just asked everybody else if they wanted to throw their characters in it. And a lot of them said yes, which was surprising because I'm very out there, very extroverted, so I could rub off people the wrong way or the right way. I was very confused with that. But I had a lot of yeses, and I just headed straight into work, putting it together. A lot of people didn't think it was serious until, as the work started piling up, as the pages kept turning out, and then the anthology book was finally produced the following year because I had a year deadline on that. And it was all finished, and people started taking it seriously when Adam Kubert, one of the members of the Kubert School, he produced a piece of that character, Sonderon, and gave it to me as a gift, and I threw that in the book as well. Yeah. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, everybody was just like stunned by that. They're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And from what the teachers are saying is that Adam Kubert hasn't drawn a picture for anybody at the school since 1995, like 1998, because one of the students there sold it, one of their commissions that they asked Adam to do, on eBay immediately after he did it for them. So he never drew after that. So for him to receive that drawing from Adam was a statement. It was a statement to me that what I've been doing, I refer to all the people that was involved in that book as family, and I treat them as such. You have to to find a fine line between being that like quote unquote boss slash editor, and then their friend. But I saw them as that family throughout the whole time. Yeah, I just wanted to get this book done and have everybody's story be told with their characters. So once it was finally done, we headed to New York Comic Con at the Joe Cooper School booth, and we were selling a bunch of copies there. So that was the first story that Sonderon was in that graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, nearing the end of my third year at the school, I did 2 chapters of Sonderon Voyage, and I threw that on Webtoons. So that's a continuation of his own canon stuff, where the anthology book was just like another in-between story somewhere in its adventures. So I wanted to like start on Webtoons in chronological order from the moment he got exiled from the star system.
And how many pages do you currently have on Webtoons?
Webtoons. I only have 2 chapters, and
okay.
the reason for that, because the second chapter got uploaded somewhere in the summer. I think it was like in mid-June.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because I'm actually currently, while I'm working on Voyage to the Call for the Kickstarter, I'm also trying to put together Voyage Anthology book number 2. And the amount of Cooper School students that are currently in the school and out of is about 23, 25 students altogether, coming back to do book 2. And it's bigger and better. It's just, everybody's got their scripts and stuff like that to write. So that's what's kind of like been slowing it down for me. It's just like preparing. And this year is just kind of like the year to start everything out. It's like a big bang. Right.
Yeah, this 2020 was horrible in so many ways, but it was great for creators just finding time to do things.
Yeah, we procrastinate a lot, and that's like one of the hardest challenges of 2020, when you couldn't go anywhere, but you wanted to draw so much, and you're kind of like, oof. You're like, no, maybe I'll sit down and play video games and stuff. So it's just it's a constant battle with me with procrastination, just like, but I remember that people are counting on me, like a bunch of people, so I have no choice but to sit down and do it anyway.
So how long have you been doing this exactly? If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
So I'm 25 years old.
Okay.
I didn't start taking drawing seriously or putting comic books together until, man, they use my brain here. When I was 19 years old, right after I left Job Corps, I started drawing like amateurish comics, like not knowing and understanding perspective and all this stuff. I started just drawing, cranking out. I was making like 6 books like a year, just cranking out. That's all I was doing. I was working 2 jobs, and and in between that, I wasn't even changing uniforms. I was just going back to once I got out of work, I sat on my drafting table and I was drawing pages right up until the next shift started. So I would pass out on my drafting table a lot. And then eventually I went to Boston Comic Con in 2017. Yeah, it was 2016. And somebody there referred to me to the Cooper School. They're like, oh, like my son was there, and I think this is a great opportunity. I was like, oh, okay. I couldn't afford the school, so I was like, maybe I'll do a summer program. And then going down there for the tour, I was just so amazed. That was like, knowing that was like, this is what I wanted to do, and this was everything that I always, dreamed of. And then my mother helped me out trying to get into the school, and I've been doing that since. Once I got out, once I made the book in the school, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is definitely something I can keep on doing outside of schools. So once I was done and I was out, I just kept going after that.
And what year did you graduate from there?
I just graduated last year.
Okay.
May 22nd.
May 22nd. Okay, so really recently.
Yeah.
Did you attend with Alexia, Sam's artist on 47 Furious Tales?
No, I didn't attend while she was there. I think she graduated before I even went there.
I thought that, but I couldn't remember the exact continuity there.
Nah, she was definitely like out of there the minute I entered. Because I went into 2017. I think she was there around 2015, 2014.
what ways do you think that you're prepared for comics that would be different if you had just tackled it on your own versus being a Huber School grad?
So if I never went to the Joe Huber School and if I kept going the way it would have taken me a lot longer, and I mean like a decent amount of years, like probably like 3 to 4 or something like that. Honestly, I don't even know because life hits you, and you always kind of like. So I think it would have taken me a lot longer for me to go ahead and figure all that stuff out. When I went to the Joe Huber School, there was so many things that just blew my mind, and realizing a lot of people think that, and you can attest to this, a lot of people think that making comic books is just, a simple thing you just sit down and draw, but the business side of it is very difficult because there's a lot of connections and networking, and not just that, you also have to like shell out money. You can't just simply go to the comic store and spend money on your weekly comics, You have to like put a little bit aside and invest into other people's projects, so that way you can count on them to help you out. But also it's the friendship too, making friends along the way. You never know that the person. When I was in the school, I never realized at all that the people that were sitting right next to me in the same class were going to be working with me on making a book together.
Right.
So there was so much I learned in that school that I would have never even realized if I never went to begin with.
So let's back up to the anthology for a minute. So is that something that's still in print currently?
Yeah, it's still in print. I have to order more. I have like 10 copies left.
Okay. Is that something you're going to keep perpetually in print, or how's it going to work?
I really don't know. I'm always open for ideas because the goal is for people to know this character, Sonderon. A lot of people will go ahead and be like, oh, this is my character, and I created this since I was a kid, and, I want everybody to know it. But the reason for me is there's something about this character that I think will cause a lot of tension with other people, is because when you read comics, specifically sci-fi comics, the main character to every single story that you're reading is always a human. Even when you're watching sci-fi movies, it's always a human. You could go ahead and be like, oh, the Predator and the Alien movies, those were great, but you're following the perspective of a human. Imagine watching the Predator movie through the eyes of Predator, and the Predator and the Alien continuity, those two characters have like a whole society, like they have like their own culture and everything, and their own comic books was fascinating. It was amazing. Some people sleep on this movie. I think it's like a phenomenal movie. It was Avatar when that came out. And that was like that made world record in theaters, and I strongly believe it was the alien portion to that, like the Na'vi people, and the majority of that movie was like you were learning the culture of the Na'vi people. I mean, I think his name was Jake. I like him because, again, you were following Jake, like the human. And I thought it would have been cooler if the main character was a Na'vi to begin with and the enemy is the human. That would have been a cool switch around. But, you see movies like that, be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the movie started off with the main character as an alien? There's actually a show coming out, I think it's called Resident Alien, where you're following this alien who crash landed on Earth, and the actor Alan Tudyk is the one that's playing that role, and that's awesome. But again, he's disguised as a human, so there's always that weird component. You can tell stories with that human relation and characters that are not from this world. I believe in that. They're touching base on that in different shows and movies more now, but I don't think they're really hitting it on the head. And I think that's where the promise where this character is.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing in storytelling, because if somebody else is publishing, if somebody else is making it into a movie or a TV show, something along those lines, they always think that you need something in there that's relatable. It's got to be relatable. Put a kid in there for Transformers, because, everybody remembers being a kid. So you'll remember being a kid, and then you can see it through the perspective of this kid. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's actually an issue I had with one of the first comics I did, because the first comic I did, the guy's just straight up a hitman. he's not a character that you're going to want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these reviewers were giving it 4 and 5 stars, but at the same time, there were several of them who were making the comment that he's not a hero. Well, I didn't set out to tell a story about a hero, so mission accomplished on my part, but it took away the relatability aspect for them because they want to be Spider-Man. They don't necessarily want to be David from Ghost Assassin,
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I think if the goal you were the intention and the goal behind what you were trying to do to begin with from the very start, if you hit that on the nose and you did it the way that you wanted to, despite what people say, then it's a mission accomplished on that.
I completely agree with that. So yeah, I think it's awesome that you're sticking with he is humanoid, but he's an alien, and and then that's the story you're telling. Yeah, I say well done on that. So how many issues do you think this is going to be in total before the whole entire story is told? Is this going to be perpetually ongoing, or is there an end in sight for you?
His end in sight, where, no spoilers, but his end, it's not for a very long time. He will have his end, and he won't come back from it, like every character in comics now. Like, there was just, when you see in comics, you see Spider-Man die, and then you see, like, somebody take on the mantle, you're like, oh my God, that's cool, that was a great impact. But when the character comes back, it just eliminates that impact altogether, so... Right. I don't have that intention for this character Sonderon at all. The cool thing, do you mind if I tell you a little bit about this character?
Yeah, please.
His backstory. So Sonderon, he comes from a broken system. Every star system outside of the Helio Gamma Quadrant, they look at that system and they avoid it for centuries because they deem it cursed due to ancient beliefs and stories that's been passed down from one to another. And Sonderon is just that byproduct of what has happened, and he has no idea there was other planets in his galaxy. So as he was hopping from one planet to another, he's just like on this hero's journey. He's just figuring out more and more about his ancestors and his history. As he figures out more and more about himself and what's been going on with his ancestors, the hero's journey just gets more and more interesting, and he gets exiled from his star system, and he's just on this quest to find these pieces to combine to save the whole universe. And they're called these pieces are called the Spear and Nod, and they're in connection to his ancestors' weapon, and it's supposed to unite the solar system and stop this prophesized ancient villain, and there's nothing that can stop him once he's out. Nothing. But it's like prophesied he will come out, and the only way to stop him is this ancient artifact, but you have to find the pieces. So he's the only one that has one piece and is out to hunt the other ones. And everyone outside of his star system think that these pieces are just a story that you tell your kids, so that way they, it's like when a kid is bad and you tell them a fable just so that way they can act better. That's just all it is. It's just stories. As the years go on, like life is just harsh to him. He has no money. He's trying to make it on his own in his ship. He's alone, besides having his pet companion. And he just gets more and more bleak, aggressive, loses hope.
Okay.
And he's got his companions to help him out as he, on the more journeys he goes on. But, you kind of question the character because you see the character slowly change. You're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen to this character? And, eventually he dies. Like, something happens and then he dies. And you're like, oh, whoa. But that's just, like, far down the line.
So bringing it back to the Kickstarter, one of the things that struck me at first is that you were doing this as a 6 by 9.25 inch comic.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually be considered like trade cloth size. It's a little bit bigger than what's standardly a mini comic, a little smaller than what's a standard comic. Why did you pick that size?
When I went to New York Comic Con, there was an artist, and I can't recall his name, and I feel bad. He had a comic, and it was called The Only Living Boy.
Okay.
And it was exactly that size. And it's, when you think about, like, everybody who's always, like, everyone's always on the go. It's always, like, fast. You can take things on the go. You go to fast food and everything. I wanted something where you kind of, like, you could fit in your back pocket or fit in your backpack or something like that, and just take it on the go and read whenever you want to. I love the standard size that they have for comic books. I just wanted to go ahead and, for this one-shot book, I just thought it would be cool to do it for a little bit smaller.
Okay. So it's just an aesthetic choice, basically.
Yeah. Like I said, the artist who created and did The Only Living Boy, that book was awesome. He did it that size, and the way his layouts was, and I don't know, there's a lot of freedom with that size, I'm still learning as I go with the layouts, and I'm just having a fun time with it.
Are you producing the artwork at a larger size and then downscaling, or
Okay. I'm drawing this on 11 by 14 paper,
and
it's got like a 1-inch border around, and then I scan them at like 600 DPI. I'll send, and then I'm gonna be flatting the pages as well, and then I'll send those pages to my colorist, who is also from the Cuba School, Adam Quinones. And he's going to color it. It's not going to be like, it's like very flushed out colors, very, like it's toned out. Because I don't want it to be like a very colorful book. I want the colors where it's bright the most on specific sections, and that's it.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So let's talk about your creative team there for a minute. Who is all working on this book besides you?
So besides me, we have Adam Quinones. Adam Quinones is an artist and a colorer. He was my classmate. He's been working on a secret comic book. Somebody's been paying him like as he was doing it in school. He doesn't really know what's going on with it too. He's just he's trying to crank out the pages. I think it's going to be coming out pretty soon. But like I said, it's like he's been keeping it under wraps. Not many people know about it. He also did a pinup for another guy that I did a pinup for, and that book is yet to be released, so I can't really say anything about that one. He was a classmate of mine. The other person is Jack French. He also went to the school as well. He was an artist that did a story on the Voyage anthology book that I did. The character that he made was Slothman. Basically, it's this character that the Nazis created. It's supposed to be the strongest weapon, like take over the world, but obviously it backfired on him. And it's supposed to be like this character is just insanely strong, like for no reason. He's just crazy strong, And me and Jack French, we would always just laugh because my character Sonderon would definitely lose against this goofy anthropomorphic weird sloth man character. He did a story for that. He's been doing a lot of commissions on Facebook and on Instagram, so he that's what he's doing currently, and he's also doing another story for Voyage 2. The next artist is Austin Ronquillo. He's doing a pinup, another guy from the Cuba School. He's doing a story that's going to be launching on Webtoons. He's keeping that under wraps until that comes out. It's funny. It's like we all came out of this Cuba School fresh, and we're just kind of we're all in the middle of working on a bunch of projects that haven't been out yet. So we kind of a lot of us don't really want to announce it just yet. And I feel bad because it's just I know a lot of people might want to go ahead and go on Instagram and check it out. They actually can if they want to see what those characters look like. They really can, and their links to their Instagram is actually on my Kickstarter. Brett Malagrano, he's the writer to this story in particular. So basically, when I was writing Sonderon and I was drawing him out, I was always trying to perfect his origin and whatnot. I was very good at writing his stories in between, what he's doing here, what he's doing there. because I found that if I started from the very beginning, I just wasn't making any headway. So I just surpassed that. I was like, no, screw that. I'm just going to write somewhere in the middle of his like adventures. And then I found as I was doing that, I was finally getting like the answers that I've been trying to figure out for his origin. And I was still stuck. So Brett, who was another Cuba School student, I asked him for help, and he's just been helping me like solidify this character to be as real as possible to the reader. So I had an idea for this book, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to happen. And I was like, what, can you write me a script? And within a day, like, he wrote it and he sent it back to me. It was beautiful. So I was like, this got some merit. We need to put this together. So he's a writer. Who else? Taylor Esposito. Taylor Esposito has lettered. He's a letterer. He's lettered hundreds of books for Dynamite, Marvel, DC, a lot of indie comics. You know, you name it, he's most likely done it. And he letters them fast. So he's a teacher at the Cuba School. So I asked him if he wanted to go ahead and letter this book, and he said he would. The other two people is Summer Gagliardi, which is also from the school, and Eugene Zabrowski. Those two are doing stretch goals, add-on stories. Eugene Zabrowski did a pinup for the Voyage Anthology, and Summer Gagliardi is doing the story for Voyage Anthology Volume 2, which we're making right now. And that's everyone.
And at what point do you hit your stretch goals?
At what point?
Yeah, what's the dollar amount for your stretch goals?
The first stretch goal is after 5,000. The main goal is hit. 63,000. 6,300 is Summer Gagliardi's first stretch goal, and then the one after that is 7,500 for Eugene Zabrowski.
Okay, so hopefully you'll be hitting those. Are you planning on doing any more Kickstarters after this?
Oh, of course.
What made you decide to use Kickstarter instead of Indiegogo or one of the other platforms?
You know, one of the big reasons was that Todd McFarlane, who's about to hit, I believe, I think he's going to hit Toy of the Year. He did his Kickstarter last year for that Spawn figure he remastered for the one he made in 1995, and I pledged to that. I was like, man, this is amazing. I've heard of Kickstarter before, but I just thought, in my opinion, and I know I could be right, I could be wrong, but I think that Kickstarter is a lot more successful than Indiegogo right now. So I wanted to use that first. Yeah, that was the main reason. I could be wrong. You know, Indiegogo could be more popular than Kickstarter.
Kickstarter has more of a name. Just is something you hear, like, you know, you hear Kickstarter more frequently on TV shows, things like that. Actually, due to the potato salad is the reason why. Which, if you don't know, years ago, a guy deciding to do a project making potato salad earned over $50,000 on Kickstarter.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was like this huge. At one point in time, the project was up to like $1 million. It was all over the news that this guy was earning all this money for his potato salad, so put it on the map. But in the last couple of years, there's been kind of a turnaround where comic-specific projects have started to make more money on Indiegogo, it looks like. But,
okay.
I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, and there definitely are a lot of the bigger creators who seem to be on Kickstarter. Like you mentioned, Todd McFarlane, but also Top Cow has done at least 3 or 4 Kickstarters now. Dynamite has Brian Pulido with Lady Death. You know, he seems to come out with one about every 2 or 3 months now, something like that.
I know. What's his name? Ethan Van Sciver almost made $1 million with that Cyberfrog comic he had.
That was on Indiegogo.
I thought it was also on Kickstarter too.
No, that one was on Indiegogo, and that actually, that's where like the politics of the current comic industry might skew the numbers, because I have done Kickstarters, you know, to make projects, and then I've done what's called Indiegogo on demand to extend a project. Mm-hmm. And I did pick up about an additional $500 in backing through the Indiegogo on demand, so I would definitely recommend it to any creators out there. And basically what it does is after you've funded your project, you just submit to Indiegogo, and you kind of have to build the campaign the same way you would on Kickstarter, you know. Mm-hmm. But it basically just extends it and allows the people that may not have backed it on Kickstarter, or maybe they didn't get a chance, maybe they didn't see it, whatever. It's a whole new opportunity for them to see it, but it's almost more of like a store at this point, where you add it and, you know, it's more, the likelihood of fulfilling, I think, becomes a bit greater because, you know, you've kind of already hit this goal on Kickstarter and blah, blah, blah. You know, so it doesn't matter if you do it through Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you can extend it through Indiegogo on demand with either. It's hard to read the metrics on Indiegogo because there are some projects that are definitely not linked to the whole Comicsgate feud and all that nonsense. It's like Dreadstar from Jim Starlin and stuff like that. So, you know, stuff that already had pretty big names, and it's kind of difficult to tell exactly, what's what. But it's something that I myself have been taking a hardcore look at, as if I shouldn't try an Indiegogo that's just a straight up Indiegogo, you know.
I see.
But yeah, definitely for name recognition, I think you'd have to explain to far less people what a Kickstarter is and what an Indiegogo is.
Yeah.
Looks like you're planning on delivering most of the product in March.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, you know, getting the pages done is, you know, not that bad. I can get that done at the end of the month. I only have like 19 pages to go. My Jack friend, she's doing a couple pages for that, which is a side story of Slothman. Mm-hmm. And that's the goal, is just to get the black and white art done this month. Then you take those pages, send it to my colorist. My colorist is going to take about 2 weeks tops to color it, no problem. And then Taylor Esposito, who's a letterer, he takes it, he's going to letter this in a day. That's how fast he is. Then after that, he's just going to send it back to me. I do the last 2 weeks is editing. So when March comes around the corner and the book is done, mm-hmm. I can just simply send it to print. Like the prints, like the artwork for the prints are done, the stickers, stuff like that, that's all done. It's just really just the main pages.
Okay, let's go into the printing for a minute. Some of the people who listen to this podcast actually do care about the type of printing this is. So is this digital, offset, web printing? What type of printing are you doing on this?
I'm doing digital, for one.
Okay.
For people who pledge on that. I'm also doing a physical print, but there's a site called Mixem.com, mm-hmm. and that's the same company that Sam Quinton did for his 47 Furies Tales.
It's also the same company we did for Chronicles Von Helsing Blood Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyone who's listening to the podcast, if you got a copy of that, you already know what their quality's like. Go on.
Yeah, the quality's really, really good.
Yes,
and it's I was amazed how affordable it was. I was getting my stuff on comicswellspring.com when I did the first mm-hmm. printing of Voyage Anthology Volume 1, and that was great. You know, it was awesome, but I gotta say, you know, it's pretty affordable for Mixem.com, and the quality is just a tad bit better.
Yes.
And I know people really can't, you know, I'm a collector like everyone else. You know, like when I go to the comic store and I pick up my certain things, I care about like the type of, you know, print, the type of paper, the type of like gloss that it holds on the stuff, because, you know, I can't tell you how many times where you just like you purchase that book right off the shelf, you put it in the bag with the rest of your books. It's on a hot summer day, you're carrying that home, you open up the bag once you're home so you can put them in bag and boards after you read them. You see a little bit of that color swiped off the cover right on the back of the other book, because the heat was just, I don't know what it did in the bag, but it just kind of melted the color right off. Yeah,
so the reason for that is with web presses. So I do believe Mixem does in fact have a web press. Before anything under than about 10,000 copies, they're either going to use one of their offset machines or one of they're kind of like laser machines. They're the digital presses. So the same sort of technology the Comics Wellspring or Kablam would use. But for web pressing, which is actually the type of printing you have to do if you do like newsprint or anything like that. So it's the type the Marvel and DC use because it's for the really big orders. You actually have to do what's called a heat seal on those books, on the covers, in order to keep the color from running off, right? And the cost per book in the size of print runs that those companies are doing are usually only like a penny to 2 cents a copy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're leaving that step out, and that's why the color's running like that.
That's okay. That's a little weird. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but you will probably notice that Marvel books are a little bit more famous for it than anyone else's right now.
Yeah, no, I know DC has stepped their game up for the past couple of years on that, and I'm really happy on that.
Yep, it's all because they're leaving the heat press part out of it. So yeah, it's interesting because even in a run, it's only 5,000 to 10,000 copies. The price works out to less than a nickel a piece. So when you're talking about those guys where they actually have a printing contract to print anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 or more per issue, and then it's 60 titles per month, I mean, like, that's a potentiality of a whole lot of books going out, and they just completely leave that off the table just to save a couple of pennies per book. It's ridiculous, but they don't care if the color in our books goes up to the backing board or not. So.
No, they don't.
So for the anthology book, for volume 2, is that something that you're planning on hitting Kickstarter up for as well, or how are you producing that one?
Oh, of course, same thing. That's actually what Voice to Call is. It was, it's a practice for me to understand how Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaigns on the internet work inside and out, because when Kickstarter 2 comes around the corner, and when Voyage Anthology Volume 2 comes around the corner, that's going to be a big book, and I know right off the bat the printing price on that is going to be a good one, pretty expensive. So that was something I make. My goal is to finish the book, complete it right before I even launch it on Kickstarter. So now the book is done. The only thing I have to worry about is making a couple prints here and there, or use material from the book, make it a print, and then launch it on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any other platform. I just needed to understand how this works. That's why I was like, you know what? Let me make a mini comic, throw that on Kickstarter, and once this is successful, I can go ahead and I learn about the shipping, the weight, and everything like that. Take care of that, customers, and I'll be good to go.
So let's talk about the incentives for a minute. What all can people get from backing this project?
So I really wanted to give as much as I was able to. So the incentives is that, obviously people are going to have the PDF. There's going to be a tier for that. They just want that.
Right.
But every single tier that's $10 and up, everyone's name gets put in the book, in the support section. That's an automatic from $10 up. Once you hit to I have a $10 tier where you get the hard copy, the digital PDF, and your name support. Above that is $15. You get a choice between 3 different prints, the book, the PDF, and the name support. One above that is $20. You get a signature, print, PDF, and a hard copy, name support. $20. I have a retailer tier. That's $20. $50 is that you get everything like I said before. You get a sticker and an inked bust sketch of any character you want, and I'll do that for people. $75. My friend Jack French, he's going to do a 9x12 commission for anybody who's interested with everything previous. And then the $120 one, which there's only 3 left, you get an original page from the book and everything previous.
Okay, excellent. And you have 2 stretch goals planned at the moment?
Yeah, 2 stretch goals.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
They're basically 2 add-on stories.
What are you doing to promote the Kickstarter currently?
I'm learning as I'm going along the way. I'm always messaging Sam Quinton for ideas. I'm a little pain. If I don't know if I have questions, I'll ask. So I'm trying to do the best I can to post as much as I can. I've just been working a lot on my daytime job, but I'll post, and I try to get my friends to post on their Instagram as well. Same thing with their Facebook. I'm trying to go and take the link and also, describe a description for the book and post that together on Facebook. Twitter, same thing. Sharing it, have people share it.
And have you identified yet where most of your backers seem to be coming from?
I know some of my backers are comic stores that I've been calling, and I'm asking, like, would you guys like to, get a bundle, sell it in your store? I've noticed a couple from there. A lot of them I noticed were people that were friends and families of friends. I'm seeing a small portion of people I haven't seen before. I don't know where they're coming from. I'm hoping that it's through, the push on sharing on social media between Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Mm-hmm. It's hard because I don't know it's hard to work around this algorithm, man. You got to figure out what's the right hashtag or what's the right thing to say, or do you even add a hashtag in that you just post it? It's just you're always taking a gamble on every post and hoping that it reaches out.
Mm-hmm.
So another method is paying an individual to help me out with the social media outreach.
Okay, by paying, you're not talking about just one of those random people who message you.
No, I forget the word. No, I forget the word for it. It's like a social media agent or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can try to have it surf on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're like a SEO type person, something along those lines. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, last thing, where can people go to find you? Put your Instagram and the Kickstarter in the show notes. But is there anywhere else they can find you?
So I'm on DeviantArt. On DeviantArt, it's Zach175. I'm on Webtoons. All you got to do is just type in Voyage, and you see the first 2 chapters there. I do got to definitely do more. I've already written them out. I just need to sit down and do them. Where else? I'm on Facebook, Dwarf Star Comics. The icon is a triangle with a star in the middle, or circle. Obviously, the regular Twitter, Instagram, which has the same @Zachary's Art. And that's pretty much it. I still have to set up my website. I definitely got to do that one too.
Websites are great, but the reality is people aren't used to going to them quite the same way as a specific website for something. So
yeah,
it's like I get more traffic on the Kickstarters I do than I do on my website. And when I post one of my webcomics, it gets seen more on all the social media platforms than it does on the website I post it to. So, It's kind of the way everything works these days. But it's still a good idea to have a website. It's also a good idea to do a LinkedIn if you have time to set up one of those.
That's right. I do have a LinkedIn. Zachary Marois. It's just my name.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on tonight. And you for sure got at least one more backer by being on the show tonight because I just backed.
Oh, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being on. Sounds like a really fun project. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again in the future.
This is Adam Watson. Thank you for listening.